Now, on to the woman that actually knows so much more about space and training for it than I do, Laura Winterling.
I actually feel like this is my microphone, so if I do this, don't laugh, right? So, okay, no, it's only my clicker. Thanks, Nicola, for this introduction. So, Nicola, she's an awesome fighter pilot for the German Air Force, and she took you about, what she said, 15 kilometers, right? I will take you much higher than that. And as you can see today in the little leaflet, it says, I'm going to talk about chances and coincidences, right? And as Christian said, I'll try to convey the image of why we're all astronauts. So thinking about this, I came up with this title. And I love English. I'm German, but I love English for the fact that in English we can do play on words, right? So with some little dashes and hashtags and stuff, we can make awesome titles. So I will actually try and give you a reason for why things seem to be impossible, but sometimes they are actually possible. And before I get into this, I have a little task. Because whenever I give talks or speeches, I like my audience to be active. So the first thing I may ask you to do is actually just get up for me. Just stand up for a second. Because what I want to do before we start, I have a very serious question. Something I'm so sure you've come across in your life. And it's completely on topic. Who of you has been camping? Please stand. Who is you? Wow. Okay, so you can look around. Basically, everybody of you knows about camping, right? Thank you very much. We will need that later. Okay, first task done, right? So, whew, good. So let me take you here.
Only a handful of people know what it's like to be an astronaut. To float freely in orbit, unbound by gravity. To work, learn, and live in space. You can be one of them. You'll never look at the Earth the same way again.
Every time I see this, I still get goosebumps. So this is the International Space Station. This was just an animation, but let me tell you, before we just got up and went on stage, I checked again where she is. She's just about above Australia right now, okay? So let me take you on a little journey. So chances and coincidences, right? So talking about how do you actually end up in space? How do you become an astronaut? Or how do you become an astronaut instructor? I ran into the same question over and over again in the last 10 years. People would come up and ask, like, when did you actually know that you wanted to become an astronaut instructor? And I said, never, right? And now you can fill in the blank for astronaut instructor for your life. Because chances, coincidences is a little bit about statistics. I'm a physicist, I love numbers, so let's talk a bit about statistics. And it's about how much do you actually think you would be successful in something? What do you think the chances are that you would get what you want? Well, do you want it enough so you actually set out, like Nicola just said? So in order to give you a little insight in how I became an astronaut instructor, and the two things I really want to talk about today, about being brave and about intuition, let me take you on a little journey high up. But let's start down here first. So let's say that's me without the ponytail, right? Without the fringe. So when I was in university studying physics, and people would come up to me and say, like, wow, physics, that's great. Like, you can do anything you want. And I had all these friends around me, and they would become lawyers and businessmen, and they would go and be in medical studies, and they will become awesome doctors, and I would be there and say, oh man, I just don't know what to do with my life. But people outside still kept telling me, you can do anything you want. But anything were too many choices for me. I was frustrated in university. I had a little depression phase right there. I didn't know what I wanted. The only thing I knew, I want to do something in 3D. That was the picture I had in my mind, literally this. So, and then if you combine physics and this thought about 3D and maybe some parents that took you out, you know, in your backyard every now and then when you were 8 years old watching satellites, what then comes up is, oh, human spaceflight, great. That's about the best 3D option I have in my life, right? So after university, I was lucky enough because the European Space Agency has the European Astronaut Training Center in Germany. And at the time that I finished my thesis, a job came up in Cologne. And that job dealt with the astronaut office. I applied. I had very weak knees. It's about 11 years ago. And I got the job. I became an astronaut instructor out of nothing. So at that time, if somebody came along and said, when did you actually know that you want to become an astronaut instructor? I said, I have no clue. But there was a difference at that moment. At that moment, I knew it was possible. Whereas before, maybe 3 years before, 10 years before, I would have said, nah, this is for other people, this is television, right? Okay, so enough of me about me. Let me really take you on a journey. Not far from here, it's not even an hour train ride, we have the only European training site for all international astronauts that want to fly to the space station. All of those astronauts, Russians, Americans, or Europeans, they all come and train here. And they train because they want to fly there. So, you've seen it a couple of times already. May I introduce space station, audience, space station, right? As I said, she's crossed Australia now. And so, who of you has seen the space station at night? Just raise your hand. The others, look around. So, and you would go like, huh? How do you see a space station? The space station, once you see it, it's amazing. It's the brightest object in our night sky that you can see. It comes from west, travels with a certain speed, and you might know the speed. And as I said, I want my audience to be a little bit more interactive. Like, what do you think how fast she is up there? Hit me with numbers. Physicists, still liking numbers. Give me something. 40,000 kilometers. 60 or 16? 1.6? So you can say a little bit higher, a little bit lower? No? Ooh, okay, that's good. Wow, I would like to go at that speed. Okay, 28,000 kilometers per hour. That's the speed of the space station right now. That means if I could take you all together tonight, up there, and we watched for 24 hours, we would have 16 times sunrise and sunset. That's about the speed in 24 hours. That's great. How many people live there right now? 5? 3? Oh, that's good. 6. Since 2009, can you believe it? We have 6 people in low Earth orbit almost all the time. And there comes an interesting fact about the space station, because I want you to take back some of the facts. What do you think the time is that we use on the space station? The time. What time is it there right now? Nicola? Okay. No? What do you think? So we had different agencies building a space station, right? Russians and Americans. Put yourself in their shoes, like, what would you say? As an American, you would say, no, it's Houston time. Right? Ah, I hear it already. UTC. Us Europeans, we thought, wow, this is great. UTC, perfect. We can work with that because it's just 2 hours off right now. So let me tell you something about this. Every morning that you wake up, almost at the same time, you have 6 people above your heads that also wake up. When you go for lunch, they'll do the same. And when you have dinner, they'll have dinner. I'll come back to that later. Okay, so you know a couple of facts about the space station. How high are we? 250? Anybody more or less? It's already quite good. 400 kilometers high, right? Okay. So in order to get people that high, we actually have to also tell them how they're going to do it and what they have to do up there, because we can't all go. Bummer, right? So this is why we have training sites. And as I said, Cologne has one of them. So there's NASA in Houston or Roscosmos in Moscow. I've been training and working at all of them. And the one here in Cologne is what you see here. So we have a training hall where we have all our modules, our rooms, built one-to-one in scale. So we can actually teach all the people, more or less in a real environment, what they have to do up there, how they're going to do it. And about 250 of my colleagues, is about the number of astronaut instructors there are on this planet. Our task is to tell them everything about ventilation, laptops, light switches, and fuses. So that's our daily task. And we spend a lot of time in these modules. As an astronaut, well, for 3 years, you'll have to listen to people like me for 8 hours a day, because you're training in order to be one day here. Well, right now, we're flying with the Russians, so this is in Kazakhstan. This was a launch almost to the day 4 years ago, because this is one of our German astronauts, Alex Gerst, and maybe some of you know, he will return to the space station in about 3 weeks from now. So 4 years ago, Alex was about to fly into space. He was just at his rocket and going upstairs, greeting 2 technicians, so they would try and strap him and his commander and buddy, Reed Wiseman from NASA, into their seats. From that moment onwards, it takes about 4 hours of sitting and starting up a computer, basically, for this, right? So a Soyuz rocket launch is one of the greatest things that I was able to experience. I can't really describe it in words how it is, so I don't do it, sorry. If you want to do it, let me know. We'll go together again. But from that launch moment until a crew actually reaches the space station, and now you know how high it is, how fast it is, what do you think? How long does it take? How long does it take us to bring somebody to space? 3 hours, 4 hours. Anybody else? 6. You're too good. You're all too good. I like to take you. Yes, it's 6 hours. Can you imagine? Within 6 hours, we managed to bring a new crew to the ISS to 28,000 kilometers per hour. That's pretty fast. I sometimes get stuck in traffic just on a German Autobahn after 6 hours. Right? Crazy. So a little bit of something what you have to do as an astronaut on the space station right now. You have to talk to the public. You have to tell them about what you do, why your job is great. A lot of Earth observation. Maybe you're lucky enough, like in the lower left picture, you can actually go outside. You get to repair a light bulb. Happens, right? It would be a cool thing to do. So you spend about half a year in space. And obviously you also have to do some normal things, like eating. So let me just give you a little insight on what it is like to actually eat in space. And I'm coming back to the question I initially asked. Remember, like all of you have had one kind of a camping experience, right? So in camping, there are 3 things that are really essential. Really essential. First, anything with bungee cords. You will end up needing a rubber band at one point. You will also want to take one of these little plastic Ziploc bags, right? Always good for camping. And then on place number 3, I can't really decide whether it's really Velcro, so anything that you can attach something to, or baby wipes. But no matter what, here comes the point. Because you've all had an experience in camping, you'll be awesome astronauts. Because those are essential things on the space station. And you don't believe me? Trust me. Here, on his pants, do you see it? All Velcro. Why? We don't have enough hands. So you stick things. to yourself. You stick things to the wall, to your crew members, like, hold that procedure for me. There, will you? Right? So, otherwise, weightlessness gets in our way a little bit. Oh, and I wasn't lying about the 28,000 kilometers per hour. You see it on the hatch up there. Right? But space is also fun. And about 4 years ago, when Alex was on the space station, we had the World Championship in soccer. So, being men, what do they do? Of fun in space, right? So that was the fun part. So just some small insights. I wish I had more time to tell you more about my work, what it's really like when we train, what it's like for the astronauts. But I have a different task today, so I have to talk about being brave and intuition, right? And I'm going to use some of those images from high above to convey that message. So this is Tracy. She's a NASA astronaut. She's just chilling out in the cupola, in our big window. This window is there for just some controlled movements for our robot arms, but it's also there to just look out, look down, to see what's there on this only place that we know. So, one thing about being brave, and this is, I'll take up from how Nicola started, because I only have one spot on my statistic line, and this is me in my life. I had to be brave to actually start studying physics. Why? There was not a single person, apart from my parents, that actually said, go do it. And you might have come across one or the other moments in your life where you said, like, I really want to do this, whether you were 8 years old or 16 or 25, and somebody was there, it's like, nah, this is not going to happen. No, this is difficult. No, I don't think you'll make it. I had a lot of these people in my life. First one, my physics teacher. Yeah. So, about being brave, that's what I learned. Sometimes you have to stick up for yourself, right? And then you can make something that seems to be impossible possible, only because you set your mind to it, and only because you try it. You give yourself a chance. That's the first thing I learned for myself. Do I still run into situations where I think, ooh, this is going to be tricky? Oh, yes. But I'll just push myself. And the second thing is intuition. I knew I had something inside of me that just wanted to do something in space. I couldn't describe it, I didn't have the words for it, but it came to me, so I trusted my intuition. This was one training moment in Star City in Russia, some time ago. So, for my part, if you asked me, I got where I wanted to be for now, and I'm heading towards a direction where I'm happy. So I combine those two things. And this is something that I would like to give to you. It's like, be brave and trust your intuition. You will run into a lot of people that might tell you this is not possible. Say, thank you very much for your opinion, I value it, but I'll just do it anyhow, right? Just like Nicola said. And thinking about this, so then I finished my presentation, when I was done with that, and I thought, no, this is actually not it. Like, being brave and intuition is not everything that I want to tell you. There's one more thing that became so clear to me what is really important. It's this. Have fun. No matter what you do, find joy. Because if you find joy, it will be your happy place. You'll be good at it, people will listen to you, and you're likely to succeed. And with that, I give you one more view of Alex. I tell him, statistics again from the beginning. When he applied to become an astronaut, It was 1 to 8,500 against him. Did he believe he'll make it? No. I asked him. He did. And he did this. So, be brave. Trust your intuition.
I think we start with question number 1, which is Nicola. You made it to the final, but you left the campaign. Why?
Well, I tried to already explain that in my talk, that if you're part of a startup, it's always a risky business, that it can succeed and you become part of Google, or in my case, you get to be an astronaut, or, you know, that it maybe fails. And the campaign needed at least 50 million euros to succeed in funding. And in the business world, they would say they had no return on investment. There's nothing but the idea of empowering women to sell to the audience, and it turned out that wasn't enough of a selling point. So instead of just, you know, we hit a wall, I hit a wall of it wasn't possible. So instead of running into that wall again with more speed, I decided to go start looking for a door. That means people with money and a lot of competence that can actually make this dream happen. So, you know, it's just a detour that I have to take to actually make it happen.
Very good. There's one question that's interesting, that's just coming up strongly. Are you paid same as men? And this would be for two of you.
I so wanted to jump on that question because it's great, right? So I'm self-employed now. I actually jumped into cold waters 2 years ago and founded my company, Spacetime Concepts, which was really scary, very scary, right? So I love that question. And you know why? Because being self-employed, I found out, is like, you can get paid whatever you want if you don't sell yourself short. If you accept something, this is you accepting it. It's not somebody else not paying you enough. So I know it's different because, let me tell you, I've been employed as well, and sometimes these talks can be very strenuous and cumbersome to talk about salary. It's you still signing the paper. If you sign, you accept it. And you have to also find a way to argue yourself into, well, use the right arguments to come to better terms when it comes to payment. And it's also about don't have more trust and believe in yourself. Value yourself.
Yeah, but we talk about that too every now and then, what the right asking price is, and it comes together with self-esteem and self-worth too. And what I love is this debate that's been going on a couple years of women earn less. And I tell myself every single time, I'm like, I need to ask more. So at least I can be the one that beats the odds. Now, I have two different things in the Air Force. So in federal employment, of course, we all make the same. And then in others, it's really hard because you don't know what anybody else makes, right? And especially in Germany, it's kind of not okay to talk about salary. And when I do, and I like to do it, then people get, you know, jealous sometimes. Now I've gotten a new job. I started a new job in October, and I've told every single one of my colleagues what I'm going to make. Not because I wanted to show off, but to give them the opportunity to rank their own worth. And I think it's really important, because at least in this room, if we all know what everybody else makes, we have a really good grading scale, great starting point, add 20% and sell yourself.
Well, another question came up. The space industry is male-dominated, probably the most male-dominated industry in the world, no?
I don't.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I'll put the military in
What
there.
would be worse?
The military probably.
Electrical engineering?
Electrical engineering? Is it?
Well, more male-dominated than space travel, but flying
still-
fighter jets and being a sniper.
The fight for female representation is probably difficult. Is this changing now?
It is, and if I may. So for 2008, the last European Space Agency selection process, we had 1/6 of all applicants, and that's to say it was 8,500, 10,000, were women among all the European countries. and we chose 1 out of 6 as a woman. So what that shows is that it's exactly the same number of women were chosen as applied. So it's not about there's no chance, it's about how many actually applied. And that's just our European standard for it. Hopefully for the next election we'll have more. And we tried it at least, right? So in America it's very different because for the last 2 selections of astronauts we had 50% women. Oh, half-half. So it is changing. We need to change our minds also to that.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes over-focusing on that subject doesn't help. When I wanted to join the military, and it was completely male-dominated at the time because the German Air Force had only opened up 3 years before, I didn't care. Not a single time did it cross my mind. It's like, oh my God, there's only men. It's like, I kind of was more like, oh yeah, my God, there's only going to be men. So, and you know, if you don't think about it, now of course there has been people who didn't like me. And I honestly always took it personal. I never put it on my gender. Is we all have people that we don't like. And we'll always come across people that don't like us in the workspace. But it could be a million different reasons. I do always speak my mind. That does not make you only friends. So and it's okay. Not everybody has to like us.
Okay. We're running out of time, but still I would like to take this one. What is the coolest thing about space travel nobody knows? 2 secrets, please.
I might use something that I learned talking to her a lot, which is because we are all here today and she means business. When you think of astronauts right now, normally you would have thought of a man. I would have too, right? So, but one cool thing about space travel is your spacecraft does not know while you operate it that you are a woman. You can operate a spacecraft being a woman and it doesn't care, right? Yes. Your car doesn't know that you're a woman. So that's the coolest thing about space travel today. There are other cool things among it, but that's probably it.
What about you, Nicola?
Well, there's so many different things. The coolest thing for me personally is I have never seen the polar lights, the aurora, that you can see it really, really pretty from on top all the time. And the cool thing about the polar lights is they're exactly the same on the North Pole as on the South Pole at the exact same time. They're always mirrored.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So please give a warm applause to our astronauts.
Thank you.